welcome to another segment of Coffee Talk. Joining us today is Erich Kron. Erich is a security awareness advocate at KnowBe4 and is a veteran information security professional with over 25 years of experience in the medical, aerospace, manufacturing, and defense fields. He is a former security manager for the U.S. Army's 2nd Regional Cyber Center Western Hemisphere and holds the most prestigious information security certifications. Erich worked with information security professionals around the world to provide the tools, training, and educational opportunities to succeed in information security. Welcome, Erich. We are honored to have you join us on Coffee Talk. We know social engineering can be one of the most sophisticated and I would argue effective methods of tricking victims and getting them to click, open, call, do something. Oftentimes, bad actors are posing as colleagues, friends, or even family members. How can people avoid falling victim to social engineering attacks?
Well, you got to be careful because to your point, they're good at this. And I think a lot of people underestimate just how clever these bad actors are. These cyber criminals, man, they know what they're doing. A lot of these scams that we see out there have been around for a very long time. We have the Spanish prisoner scam before the Nigerian prince scam. We had other scams that roll back through this same premise. And what this means is they've had a lot of practice to see how people fundamentally reply or react to certain situations. Okay. What I like to tell people is if you have any strong emotional reaction to a text message, a phone call, or an email, take a deep breath and look at it very critically. Doesn't mean it's a phishing email, but social engineering fundamentally messes with our emotions and then gets us to make poor decisions. So basically what they want to do is they want to get us into an emotional state where we think there may be a negative consequence, like, oh my gosh, I didn't wire this money for the boss. Now I could get fired. But then they'll throw in there, I need you to do this right now. And that's driving you towards what they want to get done. So they're going to use emotions to drive you towards the action that they want you to take. If we can stop for just a second and take a deep breath and go, hold on a second. That person's never asked me to go buy gift cards again. That person's never asked me to wire a bunch of money. They've never asked me why would the CEO need my W-2? You know what I mean? Like if you stop and actually apply some critical thinking to this, that's where we can spot this a whole lot better. There's a couple of key emotions that they go after. There's greed. I always use the Nigerian prince scam just because it's so well known, but there's lots of different scams that are like, yeah, give me this and I'll give you a whole bunch back, right? That's pretty common out there. But a part of pretty much every attack that I've seen like this has been a combination of fear and urgency. I've never seen a phishing email that came in that said, wire $250,000 out whenever you feel like it. Tuesday's good, whatever, take your time. After lunch, not an issue, right? It's always, this needs to be done right now or negative consequence, hence the fear piece. So becoming in tune to that and understanding how our feelings work and how they're trying to trick us can make a big difference. And I'll tell you right now, if you messed up a wire transfer for your boss and they're upset about it, and you take an extra 30 seconds to take a deep breath, maybe get up out of your chair and walk around your cube or your desk or your office and sit back down, that is not going to make a difference between you being employed or not tomorrow. That 30 seconds is not going to matter, but it can clear your head to look at it and go, okay, I need to make sure I know what I'm getting into here.
Hence the terminology, social engineering, really taking advantage of human beings' potential weaknesses. Is cybersecurity awareness training helping end users identify more sophisticated attacks, i.e. ransomware attacks or deepfakes? I mean, how is that training going to help offset some of the tactics being deployed?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. Now, again, awareness doesn't necessarily change behavior. Awareness and relevance can help change behavior. But making people aware of the types of scams at least even so they recognize, hey, wait a minute, I heard about this thing. This could be something along those lines. And let's be clear, Chris, the difference between a ransomware attack and any other kind of malware attack, there really is none when it comes to how they're dropping the stuff into the networks. Okay. They're going to try to get somebody to click on a link or open an infected document or something along those lines. It's just there. So if you can educate people to look out for these things, some of the things that they can spot, like the emotional part, if you can give them at least a little bit of information, they can help defend themselves better. If somebody has no idea about the types of threats that they face, it's impossible to defend yourself against it. So I think that's why this helps so much with social engineering. So we can take that moment and go, wait a minute, I heard about something like this, or this sort of thing was brought up to me. I need to be careful with that. That's a huge thing.
And we're hearing a lot about AI and all the different ways this is going to change our lives potentially. But now we're also hearing about AI powered solutions that are used to either fake your identity or maybe even launch a malicious activity. But we're also seeing latest AI powered LLMs used
Yeah.
by bad actors to target businesses and their customers. How does cybersecurity awareness training address AI powered attacks?
So it's may seem kind of counterintuitive, and bear with me here a minute, Chris. But I'm going to go out here and I'm going to make a pretty bold statement. All right. I believe AI is not as big of a deal as a lot of people are making it out to be. Marketing departments love this. I'm not a big fan of FUD, or fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But let's look at where something like a deep fake could come in and make a difference. All right. Essentially, we've got a couple of reports. There was one over in the UK a couple of years ago that it was a German CEO, I think, that called on a UK person to transfer some money. And that person said, oh my gosh, it was a deep fake of the CEO. Well, the fact is, nobody's ever been able to determine that that was actually a deep fake. It very easily could have been a voice actor, or it could have been somebody just modulating pitch and sound through some tools that are freely available. I know people that do social engineering, and that's what they do. They just modulate the pitch and the sound of something to sound like that person. If you want to make it even better, you throw a bunch of background noise in and go, I'm at the airport. I need you to take care of this before I board the plane. It's so hard to tell that. Now, is it AI generated? Is it a voice actor? It makes absolutely no difference in the grand scheme of things. If we recognize this scam, if we recognize this type of attack, the lure they use isn't really going to make a difference. Now, the video part, there's been some interesting stories uh, coming up recently. And again, this is such a hot topic, but there was one recently about a Zoom call. Maybe you heard of it, Chris, with they lost like $25 million to a wire fraud. And they said that everybody on the Zoom call was a deep fake. All
Wow.
right. So what's interesting about that is I've been following this for years, and we hardly have the kind of uh, computing power you need to do audio in real time. Okay. Video, in my opinion, is still years away from being able to do it real time. So there was all this talk about that. But when you start actually peeling back the layers, what it appears happened is you had a Zoom call, and they may have been deep fake um, made sorts of things, but it was all scripted. It was all built and scripted. So this person is on the call, probably silent most of the time. It was all scripted. Somebody says something along the way. And then, as I understand it, the Zoom call disconnected. And then they moved to emails to follow up. And the email is where they ended up getting the person to send the money out. So they made this big show and production, probably of some scripted discussion about some project or something along those lines, and then went, oh, we got disconnected. Hey, I need you to wire the money for that project, right? That sort of thing is going to happen. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, let's think back to what we talked about once before. If somebody picked up the phone and called and said, I just want to confirm that we need to do this, that would make a huge difference in stopping something along those lines. Again, deepfake or not, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. So I'm not trying to belittle it, and we are going to see this. But where I really see AI being a problem for us is the fact that it can translate things so much better. We've all gotten the emails that are just poorly translated. You can kind of spot it from the get-go. Here in the US, I always say if you deal only with US people and the word kindly is anywhere in the email, you can pretty much toss it out and figure that's a fake, that's a phishing one. But the translation is so much better through these large language models. They can take the same essential attack and convert it to many different languages, allowing them to scale to a point they haven't been at before as well. And there were services on the dark web that would take a phishing email that somebody wanted to use, and it would fix the grammar, it would fix the spelling. They guaranteed an increase in click rates based on the services they provided for a cost, obviously. Well, these cyber criminals don't need to use that anymore. They have Chat GPT to correct all of this, to give them ideas as well. So I think the biggest problem we're going to have is going to be allowing them to scale much, much better and getting rid of a lot of the things that many people consider the telltale signs of a phishing attack.
And I think that's also why you're seeing organizations, even when you call your bank, for example, they're going to send you a two-factor message or something to your cell phone to verify that the person that's actually calling them, that may know some information about them, to do a request or open an account or do something. They're going to double check to make sure the person they're talking to really is the person they think it is, and hence the need for two-factor, because deepfakes are here and alive, and they're getting more sophisticated, whether it's just pure audio or now we have potential video knocking on the door of tricking people. Again, it's getting back to tricking people to do something. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep, absolutely. And the time will come when it's
Yes.
real time. Let's face it, it will be there. I'm not saying we don't prepare for this thing, because when it does, it's going to be pretty ugly. We're gonna have to work on some things pretty good when you and I can pop on a Zoom call and it's not really me, but it's convincing that it is. The other thing that also happens is attackers like to do hybrid things. So you want to talk about like building trust. What happens if I get an email that says I need you to wire out a bunch of money, and that's followed by a text message or even a voicemail or a message from our CEO that makes the request and says, I sent you an email. It's super critical. Check it out. I need the wire transfer now. Putting those two things together, people just go, oh, okay, well, clearly it's not something nefarious because it came from two different places. When in fact, the good bad actors are learning how to make these hybrid attacks like that to make them even more convincing.
So it sounds like, as the technology is evolving, it's getting better, it's getting faster, but also on the other side, it's getting worse. So that's why it's so incredibly important to get your company, get yourself into a robust, evolving cybersecurity awareness training program to minimize the risk, not only for today, but for the ones that we're not even aware of down the road.
I agree 100%. It doesn't matter what the lures are. It really doesn't. If you understand and your employees understand how these function, they're going to be able to spot them so much easier. It'll send off the little the tingles in the neck kind of thing, where we always kind of go, and then we talk ourselves out of something. That's something we are very good at doing, is identifying that something's wrong and then talking us out of believing ourselves on that. That's where these things are really going to be a danger for folks.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for sharing your experience and expertise on this topic. And for those who are still with us, thank you for joining us today. If you would like more tips and best practices from the experts, please like and subscribe, and more videos will come. Cheers.